Measure twice, implement once has been a tried and true adage in the world of carpentry and probably other business trades for years, or at least in the States since the advent of public television. I really sure wish my architect on my recent home remodeling had known the concept. Regardless of the origin of the analogy, it's equally useful to us in the IT world. Measurement is a powerful tool for planning, controlling, and monitoring projects. If we take a look at the measure twice, implement once analogy, I would suggest actually a more powerful analogy, albeit a much longer title, would have been measure twice, implement what you're supposed to, when you're supposed to, and for the price you're supposed to. So as we move to the agenda slide, measure once, measure twice, implement once addresses three major topics. And so we'll be starting with measurement. The first topic, measurement, is an area that acts as a data engine for two other basic kinds of process areas. One is estimation. The process of estimation translates requirements and measurement data into information, which is used for planning projects or monitoring projects, which is the third topic area. It sort of completes the circle using the estimates as a yardstick to gauge project and to cover, to suggest corrective action. Along the way, we're going to touch on areas such as CMMI and productivity and project size. So why don't we move to the premise slide. Measure twice, implement once would be just a nice catchphrase if it wasn't a linkage between what's predicted and measured and what is measured and delivered. I recently read a book by a gentleman named M.A. Parthasarathy. He's the author of a book called Practical Software Estimation. Great book, by the way. And he drew out this link when he recently appeared on the Software Process and Measurement podcast. He described the relationship as sort of a link between measures, methods, and estimation, and that link as being project size, which can be viewed from many angles. And because it can be viewed from many angles, or / reflections perhaps, as the project progresses, it's sort of a common thread that can be teased out and used as a guidance tool. The ability to have that common thread or reflection is the premise on which this presentation and, I would suggest, estimation in general is built on. This webinar is built on that premise and that understanding that there is a linkage between size and estimation. As we go through the slides here, I think we'll tease that out, and I think for some of us, at least in my career, it's been a leap of faith until one can actually get there. But both the combination of using size and estimation, to their fullest extent, facilitate project discipline and the development of knowledge. And both of those are critical for doing and managing work. So the next slide, why measure? And if we look through that slide, there are lots of measurement quotes out there, and all of us probably have our favorite measurement quotes. Here are some of mine, and obviously if you want to share some of yours, we can have that conversation afterwards. But whether your favorite quote appears on this slide or not, we'll all agree that many have gone before us, trumpeting the value of measurement. The quotes shown illustrate three important measurement concepts, and I think the three concepts are probably the most important when it comes to the discussion of measurement. First, measurement is linked to generating knowledge. Knowledge, again, go back to, if we think about what I said on the last slide, knowledge is one of those critical concepts that allow us to make sure that what we plan to deliver is what we deliver, and that we get more effective and efficient as we move forward. Measurement focuses attention, and And I would suggest that in today's world, attention is the single scarcest asset or resource within any organization. So providing a tool that either creates focus or at least allows us to measure that, that attention has high value. Finally, measurement without action is just noise. So all three of these are important concepts. I think that if you look at those quotes, they all get us to a point where we can understand those three basic concepts. Again, lots of different measurement quotes in the world, whether we go back to the Lord Kelvin quote, which we'll use later on here, or others. But the point is, link to knowledge generates focus, and measurement without action is just noise. There is a value to measurement. And all of us over time probably have noticed that unfortunately measurement is one of those activities that not only are hard to implement within an organization, but in some cases are actively avoided. Leading me to ask, for those organizations that actively avoid measurement, how do they know whether or not there's value to the activities like estimation without some sort of a consistent feedback model? Measurement is that consistent feedback model. Or better yet, how do they monitor projects unless they ask and hope that the words that they hear actually translate into action? So let's touch back on the premise again on the next slide. Whether your favorite methodology is a plan-based or agile methodology, I would suggest that we spend a lot of time as project-oriented people, and again, I'm using the word project sort of in a loose sense. Once upon a time in my career, I did maintenance, and they were all, in my mind, very small projects, even when, if I were using the classic IEEE definition, it would have been, something other than quote-unquote projects. I suggest we spend a lot of time understanding what we want to deliver, then finding the money to actually deliver. And in that case, we start to get into the world of estimation, planning, monitoring, which are tools that ensure we responsibly use resources. Measurement is the linkage that allows us to recognize whether or not we're doing those things and whether or not things are slipping out of control. On the next slide, measurements as diagnostic tools. Measurements, there are, as projects progress, having more than one mechanism, and the slide lists off a number of different diagnostic tools that help us to understand direction, health, and insight that are important, an important tool set, a palette, I would suggest, for both managers, administrators, and developers as they actually do work. The goal of measurement really should be to provide the ability to recognize and develop trends which can be capitalized or used to determine what a corrective action might be. Measurement, the measurement portion of this presentation, provides the understanding of why these kinds of tools, these diagnostic tools or gauges, allow us to analyze and identify problem situations rather than just wait for them to happen to us and then recognize them through our filters kinds of thing. So on the next slide we have a measurement model, and I want to include the measurement model, and I won't belabor the point a whole lot as we got a little bit off to a start, but a measurement model really is important so that we have a basis for measuring twice or measuring many times